we have Mabel Loh. She's the founder of Maibel, which is an AI companion app for wellness, basically, but particularly tailored to women. And I was pretty intrigued by what she's building because we have a lot of these health companion apps or mental health apps even, but they're never ever tailored to women. So obviously you have a woman building for women, and this is something that has been super intriguing for me. Today I could not be more excited to have her on the podcast because I've been following her journey on LinkedIn for so long. And I've been really, really so eagerly waiting to talk to her, to learn from her, and to really know about her journey. All right, so excited to have you here. Over to you. Just let us know who you are, where you're from, what you've been building.
Thanks so much for having me here, Marine. So I'm actually Mabel, and I'm the founder of Maibel. So the whole concept of Maibel came about because I have been a women's health and fitness coach for the past 4 years. So prior to this, I was an educator, and I've taught for a couple of years before I decided to dive into starting my own business. It's because I felt like I really wanted to focus on sustainable, healthy habits, and it's always been something that's really important to my personal life. But when I was going up the career ladder as an educator, I realized that it wasn't really something that allowed for me to have balance. And I think it was something that I realized that I wouldn't want to sustain, even if it meant that it would be the conventional route to take, right? Because I had a scholarship that was providing me with many more opportunities in this field. So anyway, then I started MFit. So that is my women's health and fitness coaching business. And after coaching for like a few years, I realized that, there was like a gap in the solutions that were being provided to women. Even the way in which I was approaching health and fitness, it wasn't fully what I thought women needed. Because the way in which we do like coaching is very centered upon like your aesthetics, like how you look. Basically, like it's focusing on people want to get abs, they get unrealistic like aesthetic
Very
standards.
true.
Yeah, and I didn't believe in that because personally, when I lost like all the weight that I had, like I lost about 100 pounds, so it's about 45 kilos. So that was across like quite a few years of my life. Like when I was 16, I was really morbidly obese, and I went on this journey, and I've gone through many ups and downs, and I realized that the journey continuously evolves, and it's very important to have a solution that will be able to go through like different stages of your life with you. And I realized that there weren't any solutions out there. And even as a coach, when I was working on MFit and training my community, I couldn't provide that support that they needed 24/7. Like if they had like a spiral at 3 a.m. and they wanted to have someone to talk to, it wasn't humanly possible for me to show up all the time. And that's why I wanted to create Maibel, which is an AI version of me. Right. So basically Maibel
Wow.
came about from my name, like Mabel.
Yeah.
So my
Amazing.
initial my initial kind of goal was just to clone myself. So that was 2 years ago, and this was before, yeah, it was
Nice.
before AI's boom like really took off. So this was like in the early
Wow.
stages, right? Gen AI first came out, ChatGPT first came out. I don't know if you remember the video of like Will Smith eating the
Yeah,
pasta.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was like
yeah.
the quality of AI at that time, and I was starting to
Yep.
explore it, but I was like, okay, you know what? There weren't any tools out there that could allow me to build it, and I'm
Yeah.
not from a technical
Yeah.
background. So I just started exploring it, but I didn't fully dive into it until recently. Like I think last year, about middle of last year, I decided to really focus on trying to build Maibel. I joined like a youth competition where it allowed me to explore this idea, and I built up a prototype. And then I realized, hey, this was actually something that women really wanted. And I used it
Yeah.
with my existing community. And then they said like, oh wow, like I would love to try this out. And initially it was just supposed to be like a version of myself, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
digital twin. But I then thought about it, like I didn't want to just focus on my own branding. I
Yeah.
wanted like the interest of women across different like life stages and across different
Yeah.
like cultural preferences. It's not just about me. Like it was never my intention to build my brand out or to be an influencer. Like that's not my main drive. My main focus has always been to help women. And I think if I'm able to use my voice to amplify it, to help them
Yeah.
form sustainable habits, then that would be something that I've achieved like as part of my mission. But
Yeah.
so what happened was I thought back to what would motivate women. And one problem that I realized a lot of the wellness apps out there lacked was the ability to sustain interest because a lot of the apps focus on tracking. So you're right to say, I think just now you mentioned that there are so many wellness apps out there. And I get asked so much, right? Like, what's the
Yeah.
unique selling point of your product? There's
Yeah.
so many, like there are literally like 1,000 like wellness bots out there. But my
Yeah.
point is that it's different because the way I'm approaching it is first thinking about the women's like needs and
Yeah.
unique emotional and mental needs, which are very different from men. And I'm not saying it as like a feminist or like I don't
Yeah.
think that it's not that I don't think men's needs are important, but I'm just saying that I think we focus a lot on like the norm, which is the norm is actually a male coded perspective. Like we don't think
Yeah.
about it that much. But when you look at your wellness apps out there, the tracker apps that are available for fitness, it's very much
Yeah.
focused on like just ticking off the boxes, or they're
Yeah.
tracking like a specific metric across time. But women don't need that. We're consistent, like supportive accountability that which is why they hire like female coaches in person to work alongside
Yep.
them. I can give them the programs, but that's not what they need. They actually need someone who's consistently showing up and caring for them. And that's what I wanted to replicate with Maibel. And yeah, and so far
Amazing.
I rolled out like my first version. So the key
Yeah.
point is that it's conversational. You get a
Uh-huh.
Korean wellness oppa coach. So basically, I created a whole storyline. It's not just a companion, because I realized that to get to build the rapport between me and between the user and
Yeah.
the coach, you need to give them like a bit more uh, like you need to make them like a real character. It cannot be just like
Yeah.
a bot. You know, you're never gonna ask ChatGPT
Exactly.
like, "How was your day?" Like, or like, "Can you tell me more about yourself?" But the craziest thing was when I rolled out the first version of Maibel, there were a lot of women who actually asked him about his life, and they were saying like, "How was your day? What are you working on today?" And they wanted to gain inspiration from his own routines, and that gave me like that inspiration to really build up on the law, right, of the
Yeah.
whole storyline of my companion. So basically,
Yeah.
there are two parts to it. Like if you think about how I'm structuring it, is that healthy habits unlock new exciting story paths, and the
Mm-hmm.
short form version of it is that healthy habits unlock thirst traps. Okay, but it's not exactly thirst traps, but it's more like,
Yeah.
because women are very attracted
Yeah.
by the fact that he's like someone who is easy on the eyes, and
Yeah.
he's someone fun to talk to, and he has like his whole adventure in space that he's going through. This is the very first version that we've created. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is basically what I'm designing for Maibel, and the reason as to why I got started.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So this is super amazing. I mean, two questions here before we dive deeper into your product and what you built. Like, so you're basically coming from a very comprehensive background in fitness coaching itself, basically. So you have your domain expertise there. Did you have any experience in tech or in building stuff or in anything related to entrepreneurship? Did you have any experience there, or did you just jump right in because you saw a problem and you wanted to just solve it? Like that's my first question. And my second question is, you keep saying so your product, your digital version is male. It's not female. That's what I got. So just want to understand like why you decided to have a male companion rather than a female one. So yeah,
Hours. So it was really hard for me when I first started. I remember I didn't know how to value my services. I didn't know how to even like market myself. I didn't know anything. I just jumped in, and then I made so many mistakes. I think I wouldn't say that I've had experience building a startup prior to this, but I think the
Mhm.
past 4 years of building like a service-based business, which was how MFit started, has really, really helped me like form the foundation of building Maibel
Yeah,
today, because all the lessons I've learned from building my own brand, like creating my own like marketing systems, like learning how to build a community, like
yeah,
learning how to iterate and test out like the product before I actually launch something officially. Like these are things that I learned like on the job. And I had to listen to
amazing.
my users, which is my community. And I think
Yeah,
all the lessons I've learned really helped me to be like a better entrepreneur today, in terms of like you
yeah,
just don't give up. You just keep trying, and then it just somehow works out. Like that's my perspective.
yeah.
At the end of the day,
Amazing,
I had
amazing.
no tech experience as well. So
Uh-huh.
my background is actually in English literature. So that's
Oh
something
wow,
very interesting. Yeah, my
that's
major is
pretty
in
cool.
English literature.
Pretty
It's
cool. Pretty
really
cool.
funny
Yeah.
because I get asked a lot. People are like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah." And I think that's my unique edge, because I did
Yes.
English literature. It helps
Yeah.
me bring in the creative side of how to
Yeah.
use the technology. You know, like
Exactly.
it's like about you like the technology. Okay, so the barrier to entry, I believe, will continue lowering. Now with vibe coding tools, it's getting better. It's like the tech
Exactly.
itself allows you to create whatever you can imagine. But if you lack that
Yeah.
imaginative capacity to build solutions that are really needed by society, then there's
Exactly.
no like you're not gonna create any innovation. Like that's my perspective anyway. So I,
True.
instead of seeing it as like a handicap, I think of it as like a
Yeah. It's
strength.
amazing.
Like yeah, that's why I think. So that's the
Yeah.
answer to the first question. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
And then the second part that you actually asked, why was it a male character?
Yeah.
So initially, my very first version, I had three options. There was one that was a male oppa, and then there was a female coach, which was supposed to
Uh,
be based off me. So basically, they could have picked, right? And the third one was like create your own version of a coach. But when I
Yeah.
tested it out, my initial users were my closest friends and family. They
Mm-hmm.
said like, Mabel, you know what? I don't want to pick anyone. You just if I tell you what my needs are, I just want you to
Yeah.
carve someone out to meet my needs as a coach. Like for example, if clients come to me, they want to train with me, they'll tell me their problems and I just create a plan. They're not gonna say, okay, Mabel, I want you to like look a specific way, speak a specific way, but it's already pre-curated because they know exactly what they know what they need and I'm supposed to make that decision for them. So then
Yeah.
I started to hone into the oppa angle because I realized that like a lot of women have
Yeah.
interest in kid drama, right? And I also realized that there was one thing when I was speaking to my community as I was training them, two things. A lot of them have a habit of watching dramas. Might not be
Yeah.
everyone, like might maybe 70-80% of the community does that. But that's
Yeah.
a big enough number. It's a sufficient
Yeah. That's
number
a
to
big enough.
start off.
Yeah.
And they have like fantasies of like, I really wish like my partner was like this Korean oppa and he was very
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent and listened to me. I could build a female version, but I was just thinking, okay, what would make them more interested and compelled to continue with the storyline if they were starring in a drama? So that was my
Yeah.
first thought. And then so I just went down that kind of angle and it kind of took off on its own, like as women kept using it and then they gave me feedback. Like the biggest thing that made me realize I was on the right path was when they started asking him how his day was. Then I realized like, wow, they are really sucked into this storyline. You know, they get so like interested, like they're
Yeah.
just cute, right? And I combined
So
it with their natural
yeah.
desire to want to know more about like stories, gossip. Also,
Yeah.
gossip is also a big part of it. So I'll give you an example. Like when I'm training my
Yeah.
community at the
Mm-hmm.
start, when they are doing a very difficult set, they're doing their squats.
Mm.
And then I'm
Yeah.
telling them a story because I have to distract them. So sometimes my strategy is I'm very good at storytelling. So I'll be telling them about my life. I'll say, oh, like to tell you about this, like, do you want to hear more? Then you have to finish this set, like do like 10 more reps, and then I'll tell you the next part. So then they'll do
Yeah.
it and they'll say, okay, fine, I'll do it. So it kind of distracts them from the pain. So I was
Yeah.
thinking what would really help them form that habit while making it like enjoyable and pleasurable. So I thought, okay, why not this? And also,
Yeah.
I just thought of the last thing that I wanted to say for that was also because I feel like personally, like, I think women have very little avenues to talk about their desires and their needs. And I'm
Yeah.
talking wellness as a holistic like
Yeah. Yeah.
component.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
desires like sexual desires or like
Yep.
wanting to feel like affectionate and you know like
Yeah.
I think these are
They
things
don't
that I
have an
also
outlet, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
no, and then none. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, why is it that we have so many NSFW like content and OnlyFans for men, and then even the
Yeah.
companion oppas by like Grok or Meta are all like male coded. I'm
Exactly.
like, why is it
Exactly.
all like sexy waifus? I'm like, where's my Korean oppa? So it's kind of also
Mm.
like to think about the gaps in the market and how I can really
Yeah.
plug it with a solution that will meet women's needs. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then that's why the Korean oppa thing kind of took off. And also women's eyes will
Great.
always light up when I started doing road shows at the start, I would say, "Hey,
Yeah.
would you like to star in a drama?" And then you know your Korean oppa coach will train you, and they were like, "You mean a Korean oppa coach will train me?" And then they'll tell me their favorite Korean oppa coach, and I'll say, "Sure, like in the future you can customize it." And they were like, "Yeah, this is so exciting," you know. So it
My
just kind of
God.
evolved from
Yeah.
there.
That's such an exciting strategy. So two things I'm learning. One thing is that you are a brilliant marketer. Honestly, like which woman would not like a Korean oppa? Like
Yeah.
at her disposal. Like to be able to talk to, and obviously, like the way obviously these K dramas position these Korean oppas. Like they are always so caring, so kind, basically, which men in real life technically aren't. So if you have someone basically who is as caring as a real life Korean oppa, basically, or like more like a K drama type Korean opera. So it's actually brilliant because it's you're nailing it with your audience, basically. So you are definitely a brilliant marketer. Like, and what you just earlier said also, that you don't have any experience in building the technical side of things, but in marketing you're simply just pro at it, and also coming from an experience, also coming from a background of English literature, basically gives you that extra edge, because right now you need to seek your differentiation point, basically, right? You need to know where, like, how you can stand out in an era where everyone is trying to get all these technical skills, but the real skill is your imagination, basically, right? The real skill is actually your creativity, and how you can, like, what you can think, basically, or what you can imagine, right? And that is something a lot of people, a lot of builders don't even focus on, basically, is how to be creative. And you are focusing on that, and just hearing what you're just saying is like super inspirational. So yeah, I mean,
Thanks.
really, really love honestly what you're building, and also love the way you think about things. So this is super, super amazing. So yeah, I'm super intrigued to dive deeper into your product and what you can possibly show right now, like what the product is about. If you can like share your screen or perhaps like walk us, whatever, like whatever you can possibly show would be great.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure. I think like maybe what I'll do is I actually have like a deck that I've prepared, but I'll most likely just share like the flow. Like basically how it works is that it is starting off as a like I'll
can
just
we see
walk
the
you through
Korean
like the
opera right
onboarding.
now? Is it
Sorry?
like a live like a live version of the Korean opera right now, like, or is it something that you're still building?
I'm
Because that is
currently
too
still building. So that's a good point. I
okay.
wanted to show you the live version, but I actually did some
Yeah,
iteration. So unfortunately, I don't have the actual oppa right now, but I can show you like the onboarding kind of the flow of the entire experience. And I think that
amazing.
might be quite helpful for understanding what it actually looks like. Because I realized that a lot
Gotcha.
of times, like when I talk about like the companion, a lot of
Yeah,
times women are telling me that, you mean like when you talk about a companion, what do you mean? Like, you mean is it just a chatbot? Like,
yeah,
I think that's the number one thing I get a lot, like that
yeah.
people think it's just like a chatbot.
Yeah,
So
just
so that's what
chatbot.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to, yeah, and that's
You
what I'm
are
trying to
building
like,
a full companion, literally someone like what a companion does, like wake up with you, just ask about your day, like,
yeah,
literally be there for
like
you.
a real
Yeah,
human
yeah.
being actually.
Very
So
amazing.
yeah, I think, can you see this version like here?
Yeah, yeah. I can see,
Okay,
can
so
see.
basically what I'll explain is that I will just share with you the flow. And this is like basically encapsulating all the key features of it. So the
Yeah.
current MVP is actually on Telegram. And basically the whole concept was to help women fall in love with healthy habits, right? So this was the initial kind of testing. So now we are changing the entire concept. This was the first version of our prototype. We had like a Korean like oppa who was
Yeah.
supposed, so the context is that he's actually in space and he's like
Mhm.
training you as a cadet, and you're supposed to pass like specific missions so that you can achieve like a rank that allows you to interact with him on a weekly basis. And
Ah,
then
so
once
there's
you
a
hit,
proper storyline behind it.
yeah, there's a proper storyline. Yeah. And I had to craft it. So because I realized that women really were asking questions that the AI couldn't answer. So the interesting thing is, if you don't have specific, so we actually have to build like a system to allow him to have memories. Like we have a RAG, like retrieval
Yeah.
augmented generation, like a system for him to have memories of his life. And
Yeah.
the difficult part is to only review specific elements, not everything at once. So that's why I think like for Maibel, we don't just focus on the wellness coaching. And that's why the architecture is also pretty complex. Like we are talking about the content generation engine, and we're also talking
Mhm.
about the agentic like coaching like orchestration of coaching agents, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so there are two components that are key to um and so the first part is at the start we'll onboard like all the users, and then we'll be sharing like what asking the users to share about their day and like to share about their routines, their preferences. And then the way we're doing it is that it's very conversational. So it's not meant to be like dry, like filling in a form. It's meant to be allowing the users to think as though they are speaking to like a companion, like you said, like a real human
Yeah.
being who's trying to find out more about them, right? And then the
Yeah.
second part, you actually get to bond with the companion on a daily basis. So the
Yeah.
companion will check in with you like a real person. And the interesting thing is that he actually shares his own life and shares
Oh
his
wow.
own, yeah, so he
Interesting.
shares about his own meals and his own lives because I want to mirror the human bonding component. So that's the difficult part where I had to be more creative, and I actually have different tricks like that allow like women to feel very like immersed in this experience, and it's fun for me as a builder too because I get
Yeah.
to share like how I have to think creatively, because there are no solutions out there that are doing the same. You can talk about the companion apps that are out there already, like Replica or like you talk about character AI, but the
Yeah.
difference is that ours is very focused on the entire lore building. Like the story is crucial to this experience.
Mhm.
So it has to be consistent. Like it has to not break immersion for the user. So
Gotcha.
so he obviously he's in space. So then the food he eats has to be aligned with what he's able to get in space. And
Quick
then when
question
he
on the
sends,
story though. Sorry, just a quick question on the
yeah,
story though. Is the story customizable? Is it specific to every user? Do they select in the start, or is it something that just naturally follows after you just converse with it and it just makes up a story? So how is the story developing?
Currently,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good question. At the start, for
Yeah.
now, we are not letting users personalize or customize the story,
Okay.
because we're
Mhm.
trying to create an experience that will be consistent for the
Across.
user,
Okay.
for all users. So I
Yeah.
think the storyline itself is fixed, because I also realized that there's a limit as to how creative AI can get with story writing. I think it can
Yeah.
give you a very strong start, but at some
Yeah.
point, like, you need to have a human in the loop. I think that's
Yep.
crucial. I tested it out, and the storyline isn't as effective. It isn't like we're not there yet, 100% like
Yeah.
AI generated narratives, especially if you're looking at
Yeah.
the how you're gonna create it as a whole, a part of an entire law that will expand into different arcs. You know, like, you have to create something that's very comprehensive, and the persistence itself is very important. So that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to focus on. That's why I actually am the narrative designer for this.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think, yeah, so I have to design the entire like law, and I am the one who creates this like entire process, even the images. But the point is, so now all the storyline is fixed, but then the responses differ, right? Because it depends on how the user responds. Like, if the user responds with an image, and then they can continue discussing about the nutritional like tips, etc. If the user chooses to verbally like express whatever reaction they have, then the AI will like take it from there. You know, so it really depends. Like, it's organic in that sense. So there's a mix of like fixed storylines plus an organic coaching response from the AI. Yeah, so that's
Got
how the experience actually works. But it allows for some freedom, but then the storyline itself is actually really important, like, for the user experience. So
Yeah.
then what happens is that they'll get check-ins every day, and I think our differentiator is that the check-ins are in a very like a real human would check in. It's not like I gave some examples here. You see, Duolingo, even with the greatest retention, like they are they are well known for their retention. But even for
Yeah.
Duolingo, like, they have some really interesting like tricks. Like, I've studied them, so I'm just gonna review
Uh,
some like of the alpha here. But
yeah.
they would use different characters. They use different colored fonts. Sorry, different colored like words. Like, it will be
Yeah.
red if you ignore them for like quite a period of time, and then if you don't use it, like, now like, now the icon on my phone is like a sad owl because I haven't opened the app in a very long time. So they're really
Uh,
creative, and I like that. But then I'm still thinking,
True.
I keep thinking, like,
Yeah.
how can I make it better? And then it's obviously another step up from like apps like MyFitnessPal, which is like, oh, your review is ready. Here's a progress report. Like, I think that's the worst, because no one clicks on it. It's
No
like
one
you're
opens them.
shouting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're shouting in a void, and then everybody's attention span is already so stretched because we have so many notifications every single day. So my point is
Yeah.
to make it so like just so seamless and delivered straight into their inbox. It feels like a friend who's coaching with them, talking to them, and then they would want to click on it because of curiosity. And also they feel a sense of accountability. So I have
Yeah.
users who tell me that, oh, I feel like, you know what, when I promise that I need to clock this habit, I must do it. That's what they tell me, because they feel like the current companion is called Evren. Riven was our first edition, so now he's called Evren. But they feel like Evren is someone whom they don't want to let down, you know, because they built that bond. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting, like, to see how everything ties together and create an experience that allows them to then really build towards achieving their fitness goals, right? And
Yeah.
lastly, you see, like, on this side, the last image on the screen is actually this interactive story path that they unlock every 7 days. So they get to have rewards, like it could be a fragment of their past memory, it could be a video, it could be like in the future, like this call, etc. So that's the features that we're currently building to see what women actually do enjoy. And I have rolled out 2 ways of private beta testing. It's only by
Mm.
invite, but I would love to
Yeah.
have like your listeners and your viewers like join in if they want to sign up for the link. Like,
Yeah.
feel free to. I have a third wave that's coming up for testing, but then the official launch
Nice.
is in January. So by January, like, the entire storyline would be fleshed out a lot more, and we're gonna see like a wider range of features that will allow for users to really maximize, like, not just their enjoyment of the storyline, but also the coaching kind of the utility of the app as a wellness companion is very important. Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
still building up on the features for that. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
thinking? I'm thinking right now is that why did nobody think of this before? Like having a Korean oppa like message you and just talk to you. Like literally every woman would want that, you know. And like this is
Yeah.
gold, honestly.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm super super intrigued. So I would like to dive deeper into your own journey when building this, and also like in your fitness coaching experience, and also like your own personal experience. Like, what's the what's the what are some of the common problems or the most common problems women face when it comes to their fitness and their fitness journeys? And how are you solving them via this product of yours and via AI in particular, right? Like, just want to understand like how you're using AI to solve those problems that were previously like unsolvable, basically, right? So
Okay.
yeah, just
Yeah,
that.
that's a good question. So I think the biggest problems that I've noticed like across, so the interesting thing is I'm speaking not just from like experience of training my community for about the past almost 5 years now. It's also from my personal journey, right? For the past 16
Mhm.
years. So I've gone through it. I am like a user. I am an ideal user. Probably in the early stage of my journey, I would have been the ideal because I was starting out and I was just as clueless as some of the beginners who are now on their journey with me for coaching. Right. So what I realized is that it's not that there's a lack of information. While there's like technology, I mean, not technology, social media has allowed for access of like a whole range of information, all the information that you
Yeah,
need at your
so
fingertips. And
much.
with AI, it's even easier, right? You can just ask GPT to come up with like any plan that you want. You can even send your meals in. Like I've heard of users who send their meals in and just get like their daily plans like generated by
Yeah.
ChatGPT. But the problem is, I would say, is that it's not the lack of data or information, it's that
Mhm.
women cannot stick to it because they beat themselves up a lot.
Stickiness.
Like I think women have a very harsh internal voice. And it's very different because it's not just the harsh internal voice, it's also coupled with all the external pressures that they face in life.
Yeah.
Women put in a lot, we give a lot to people around us. And I think I have so many women I train, like they feel guilty taking care of themselves. Self-care is a problem for so many
Exactly.
people, especially for moms. I train
Yeah.
mothers, I train like
Very true.
it's not interesting because across different stages of life, we have different priorities. If you are younger, you're just starting out, maybe you feel guilty about not sustaining the habits because you cannot sustain it because your work is really hectic. You cannot. Then as
Yeah.
women start like caring for their families, they start like wanting to have children, or if they don't, even if they don't, they might have like their partners, or even if they're alone, they would rather focus on something else than they feel bad
Yeah.
for taking care of themselves. Like that's really like a thing I've noticed across ages.
That's common across all women. Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
And then they feel like they're self-possessed, like as in it's not a self-possessed, they feel like they're selfish. And then they think like,
Selfish.
oh,
Yeah.
I cannot spend time on myself because I should be caring for my family, I should be doing something else. You know, like how dare
Yeah.
I take care of myself, how dare I pamper myself? Like this is the number one problem, I think, because if we have this mindset and then we beat ourselves up so much, and when we fall off the bandwagon, we just think, okay, let's screw it, like I'm just gonna give up. And then they say I should just be focusing on something else instead. So no matter how much data they get, how much information they get, even if I give them a perfect program, but if their
Yeah.
mindset is always that, you know, I need to be perfect, I need to do everything else for everyone but
Yeah.
myself, they cannot stick to it. So the
Yeah.
difficulty is adherence because they have such a harsh internal voice and they cannot
Yeah.
prioritize themselves. Like we are just taught to not like we are taught to like silence our own needs because we should be
Yeah.
like a specific way, like we should be more submissive. We shouldn't be like asking for things. We shouldn't be too demanding. And I think these are things I
Yeah.
realized even as a founder, as a female founder, I had to grapple with. Like at the start, I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I would belong in the spaces, in rooms, especially since I'm non-technical, right? I would be like one of the only few female founders plus non-technical. As in now,
Yeah.
I would say I'm not. I won't say that I'm non-technical anymore because I think I have a little bit of technical
True.
literacy, but
Yeah.
maybe technical fluency, but not obviously
Yeah.
I can't do everything on my own, but I know how to
Of course.
like I know how to read like architecture systems requests for like specific features, like question like
Yeah.
my dev team, which I'm working with. You know, I think
Yeah.
these things are helpful to I keep like so I keep leveling up my own skills so that I will not be at that disadvantageous like position. But I think
Yeah.
it's about the mentality. Like if we think that we can't do it or we think that we are not capable of it, then we won't continue no matter it be it in fitness or in entrepreneurship. Right. So that's I think that is the
Yeah.
main thing that I'm noticing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think what you're just discussing is one of the things that I've learned is that you have a brilliant mindset. You literally have an athlete's mindset because you're coming from a background of fitness, and that obviously like flows into other areas of your life, basically, whether that's business or literally even in your personal lives, basically, right? You need to have that right mindset. And what you just said, that one of the biggest problems that women have is that they feel guilty about taking care of themselves, basically. Like self-care becomes selfish, basically. And the
Yeah.
problem is not that they don't have the information. The problem is that they don't know how to stick to it, right?
And I think there's another thing to also note is that like I feel like if we don't see other like role models who are doing it, it becomes really
Yeah.
hard as well. Like maybe if your family members, your friends aren't prioritizing, I think it's getting better. I wouldn't generalize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say like it's just
True.
picking up, you know? Yeah, it's not,
Yeah.
and the systems are not there to support us. And I like what you put up. Like I wanted to say one point, like you said with the athlete's mindset. I always joke about this, like strength is that I can suffer really well because I know that the
Uh,
to suffer is to be challenged, and then with challenge comes growth. So I think it
yeah.
comes from my personal fitness journey. Like the past few, like when I first started, it was really hard. Like I was the weakest person in the gym. I didn't even know. Like I will used to walk on the treadmill and I'll look in the reflection. Then you can look at how other men are using the equipment. Then I'll just like run to the machine and try it out because I don't know what the heck I was doing. So then I have that mindset of, okay, if I could start from nothing and now I'm training women and I'm like one of the strongest women in the gym, I can lift like 200
Wow.
kilos and I'm like hip thrust. I can be in the gym and I can lift like heavier than most men. Like I'm like, why can't I start with technology the same way with AI,
Yeah.
with building a startup? So I use this mindset to always like motivate myself. And that's what I want to train the women to think about their own fitness journey as well. Because I'm sure women have a lot of grit and resilience in different areas of their life.
Yeah.
But I hear them say like, oh, I can't do it. I lack discipline. But then you know that whatever you say and articulate becomes reality. So I work a lot on like training them to also like think in a way that would shape their reality by verbalizing like affirmations instead. So it's not just the
Yeah.
physical aspect, right? It's like the mental, the emotional.
It's
So
a
that's
men.
why like for
Exactly.
Maibel, it's
Yeah.
very holistic. That's what I'm trying to build with the AI companion. Not just the fitness, not
Nice.
just nutrition,
So
not
it's
just mindset.
also emotional, mental,
Yeah.
psychological, like all of that combined. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. No, pretty cool. And also, like one of the things that you just said that women, it's all technically it all comes down to the mindset, right? I mean, when you compare the mindset of men versus women, men wouldn't know shit basically, but they would act so confident, right?
Yeah.
Like they would act so like as if they know
Correct.
everything. But women would know a lot of stuff basically, but they would still feel like an imposter basically, because that's how I mean,
Yeah.
technically Asian women, like all of us, like have been trained this way basically, right?
Yeah.
Like we are told to just undervalue ourselves basically. And so I think that what you're building is technically so good for a lot of women and across different fields basically, right? Like across different fields, they need this kind of like mental training also, not just physical, because it goes hand in hand basically, right? What you just said, that you're building something holistic, and that is what women need. A lot of the times the problem isn't something physical, the problem is mental basically. Once you work on that, you work on your physical fitness also basically,
Mm.
right? So you're
Yeah.
building something holistic for women basically, tailored to women. So I would love to know like what you think of the current wellness apps out there that you feel, I mean, that's, I know like a lot of the wellness apps out there, they don't really think about women specific issues basically. So what you're building is specifically for women, right? So how are you planning to like, I mean, what's your roadmap ahead in terms of like catering specifically to women, and why
Mm.
you think the current market does not serve women well basically? So
Well,
yeah.
that's a good question. So I think the first thing is that I think the current market doesn't serve women sufficiently well. They'll make it pink and then they'll slap on like some different like UI and then say it's for women. Or interestingly, even like
Thing
the,
is
the
like so irritating for me. Like, why do you
yeah,
make everything pink? It's so,
exactly. And then we go deeper into like even the designs, right? Like I was doing a lot of research when I was thinking of how I wanted to build Maibel. It didn't
yeah,
start off as Telegram. I actually did have like a Figma, like I created like Figma different screens for like the initial prototype of Maibel. And I realized that, I
yeah.
was following like a template that existing apps have. But then when I rolled it out to my community, the very, very first iteration, I think it was in January this year, they
Hmm.
hated it. By screen two, they were like, I'm so bored. I don't want to use this anymore. Then I realized, oh my God, like there's something wrong. Like I was following industry norms of how a fitness app would look like because I had
Yeah.
done the research and those were the existing solutions out there. Then
Mhm.
I realized it
Yeah.
wasn't working. And then I was thinking,
Yeah.
okay, what's going on here? Like maybe I needed something different. That's why I thought about a conversational UX where you don't even
Yeah.
need that many screens. You don't even need that much tracking. You don't need specific details of like a macro breakdown to like the vitamin like numbers in like every single ingredient. It's not really about that. It's about what
Yeah.
do women need. Like if they need the
Yeah.
emotional support, the user interface should be supporting them emotionally and be consistently there for them sufficiently. And then that would be enough. But then
Yeah.
we fixate so much on what is already out there and then we think that is the right way to go about it. I think that's the first problem. The second thing is also that a lot of the teams out there, if you look at it conventionally are very much led by men. So that's one thing I also realized. Like, if you have men that are mostly running the entire like team, or they're the ones who are, even if they
Yeah.
do research on users, still that gap that they have to cross. One thing I noted
True.
was when I was working with male teams, and that's why I'm trying to build like a more women-led team, at least for my
Nice.
longer term plan. Currently, I'm still building an MVP, it's still a prototype.
Mhm.
I'm still in the early stages of building. But in the
Mhm.
future, what I really do wish to have is for Maibel to be led by a team of women, at least for
Yeah.
each department to be led by women, because I realized that I
Mhm.
spend a lot of time trying to explain like the female psychology, and it doesn't sound like much, right? You can say, oh yeah, we can hire like researchers, but no, it's really different. So I'll give you an
Mhm.
example, case in point. Like, I talk about this very frequently, and even at panel discussions that I'm invited for. Like, there are male coded biases, not just through the way in which AI is trained. For example, like when women are using like the LLMs and they talk about their stresses. Like, one of the users told me, I told my companion that I was having a hard time with my boss. And then the AI
Yeah.
said, final boss, let me teach you how to fight it. And then they gave a whole list of strategy of fighting a final boss in a game.
Uh,
And then they misconstrue the entire context, because it's
yeah.
all very much trained on this like concept of like, oh, you must be talking about some gaming terminology. And even the developers
Mhm.
themselves have that mindset. So their
Yeah.
instinct is to go towards the angle. So one, I have a few developers that I worked with across different phases of Maibel. One of them was like sharing, okay, you should we let users personalize the companions, like what we discussed earlier in this episode,
Yeah.
right? And then he was saying, yeah, sure, I know, that's a good idea. How about we let the women kill off the companion and then they can pick a new one? And I
Yeah.
was like, look, never kill anything. Like, this is not how women think. You know, we don't do conquest. We don't do like killing, sticking claim. Like, this is not what we do. I was like, we cannot kill anything. Like, we don't kill things.
Why
Like,
does it have? Why do you have to kill anything? Like.
yeah, it's like you can just change it. Why do you have to kill it? We can maybe banish it. I don't even think we will banish it because we're not inclined to hurt things. Like, this is not like
Yeah.
a. It's just like, it's really funny when you think about it, but it's also ridiculous. It's like, what? And then you realize that there are so many solutions out there that are built on like how men think. Like, or for
Exactly.
example, even though it was a conversational UX, I had another developer tell me, oh, maybe I'm brainstorming about this feature. How about we let a pop-up button that says location saved, or like mission accomplished? And I was like, okay, if I'm talking to my oppa, I do not want like a box that comes and tell me like some data that has been tracked. Like, I do not care. Like, I just want to talk to my oppa
Yeah.
and be immersed in the fact that I'm talking to someone who cares about me, you know? So all these things make
Exactly.
me realize like these biases are filtering down from the training data that are used in
Yeah.
LLMs, and even the health data. Like, we talk about like the research participants, like women have hormonal changes, they're usually not identified as suitable research participants, right? So
Yeah.
then most of the data will be trained on men, usually white men, because you know,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's all like going to be influencing the kind of outputs that you get from the AI, from the LLMs. And
Exactly.
that's why I really want to, in the future, for my roadmap, like what you were saying, it's women
Yeah.
centric, because I'm going to fine tune my data that is built on women specific health data. And even
Yeah.
like the kind of solutions and programs have to be based off women's needs across different evolving stages of life,
Wow.
right?
That's gonna
And
be a
also,
gold mine. Yeah.
yeah, and also we're talking about how like at the start it could just be wellness, but in the future I'm looking at other kind of expansion packs. We're talking, if we go into like the sexual
Yeah.
wellness, it could even be like, you know, like a OnlyFans for women, but then they get motivated to focus more on their own pleasure, but then it's like also
Yeah.
unlocked by healthy habits. Or another path could be like the traditional fitness app route, where they get
Yes.
programs catered towards them but executed by the coach. You know, there are like
Yeah.
endless possibilities to expand on
Yeah,
Maibel. And
yeah, no, 100%,
yeah,
100%. I mean, I like
yeah,
what you just said about the having your app being trained or like developing a database of female specific data, basically, because I think that's going to be a gold mine and that could become your moat also in the future because
yeah,
we don't have that data. Like, and a lot of these apps that are these health and fitness apps are trained on male specific data. So having a data set, a big data set that's specifically trained on women's needs and like it's gonna be a gold mine, like 100% of that. And what you just said about like expanding into the field of sexual wellness, particularly tailored to women, like it's huge, like because people don't talk about it, like women don't get
yeah,
educated about it, like it's often an afterthought, basically, right? So because it's almost always geared towards men, basically, right? Like women's pleasure basically is like a second.
irrelevant. They're like, nah.
It doesn't even exist,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah,
And
I
there's a
mean,
taboo. Yeah.
it's
It's
a taboo,
totally like,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
let's not even talk about it because why are you talking about it exactly? So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's a huge niche, and I'm really super inspired by the fact that you're already thinking about these fields because like I mean you are a visionary. I think one thing that I've learned from this podcast obviously is that you are definitely a visionary. The way you think, the way you're envisioning things is like super amazing. I think even from your LinkedIn posts, I can feel your like founder energy, the way you're promoting your product, the way you're marketing yourself, but also building your brand basically, like it's so inspiring basically because it doesn't feel like you're marketing yourself. You're just sharing a piece of your life basically with people, right? Like you're just being authentic. And I think that's so crucial because a lot of people they go very hard in on selling their product, but you are just not even trying to sell anything. You're just sharing yourself basically with the world, basically, like sharing a part of you, sharing your lifestyle, sharing your life with the world, basically, right? And that is like super super interesting. So this is definitely amazing. So I know we're running out of time, so any last things or last message that you would like the audience to know, like particularly women, like women female builders or female aspiring entrepreneurs basically, right, like who want to enter this field of entrepreneurship, want to use AI to build something. What is the message that you would like to give them, or like one takeaway that you would like them to walk away with? So yeah.
Okay, that's a great question. Bible is just meant to be like a companion that is meant
Yeah.
to help women form healthy habits. Like what I hope is for them to know that, it is possible. I think the reason as to why I wanted to create Bible was because I wanted them to know that it is possible to find like something that you're passionate about, a solution
Yeah.
that you want to create to solve a problem that is uniquely like only women will understand. And I think we really need a lot more female builders in the space. And I think we bring like a very unique value that we often underestimate. Like you will walk into a room and then you think you don't deserve to be there. But then the kind of perspectives and the angles that you might have is very different from men who think they know it all. Like that's just like a point that
Exactly.
I realized. And then when you actually dare to speak up, right? So many times when I thought, okay, I shouldn't have, but then I just did it anyway. And then in the end of the day, I realized that it was important for me to have shared it because they wouldn't have
Yeah.
seen perspective. And it's not even about being
Yeah.
validated or it's not even about being seen as equal or not. It's just about you articulating your authentic voice and creating
Exactly.
something that you know will impact the world. And that's how I approach my marketing. Like you mentioned, like I don't see it as selling because I think it
Yeah.
speaks for itself because it's a solution that women do need. And I think if you always have that idea of you are working towards a vision or a mission, and I think the solution will work itself out. That's what I really believe. And it seems to have like
Yeah.
because it might not be easy. Like at the first few years of Maibel, first few years of MFit before I built Maibel, I had to out so many different products I tried building. And I
Yeah.
failed many times. I had people like not so show up for my programs, like single digit numbers for people who sign up, and then now I have like a wait list that is growing. I have a few hundred women. I have
Wow.
women who,
Yeah.
and I share it with them in person, they would share it with
Yeah.
their partners and they will share it with their friends.
Oh,
They will say either two things. They will say, I believe someone will need this, or I know I
yeah.
will use it. So either one. So I realized that
Yeah.
once you have a clear mission and you understand the needs of women well enough, you should just build towards that space. Or even if you don't think it's a women-centric need, but you can bring your angle as
Yeah.
uniquely like a female experience to building that product, it will allow for like more inclusive product designs
Yeah.
and like, solutions. That's what I believe anyway. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, this is amazing. So one takeaway that I can take away from this is like what you just said is that women need to speak up more because many times they think that they don't have something of value to contribute, but they actually do, and in many cases more than men even, but they don't speak up. They keep on, like pulling themselves back basically and holding themselves back basically. So yeah, this is
Exactly.
this is amazing, amazing. All right, Mabel, thanks so much for being on the spot. Where can people find you? Like if they wanna learn more about your product or if they wanna talk directly with you, where can they
Yeah.
find you? Are you active on X, on LinkedIn? Where they
Yeah.
can they find you?
Okay, so I'm actually really active on LinkedIn and you can find me on, it's easier if you go to maibel.com and you can sign up for the wait list there. And also then there are links to my socials. I also post like regular health and fitness tips on Instagram. Of course, like LinkedIn is like a great one if you are a founder and you're a builder and you would love to hear about how I'm building my product and the lessons I've learned along my journey. Yeah, so I think that would be the best way. And definitely sign up to try out Maibel because I would love to hear like how women would want me to continue building Maibel for their needs. so I appreciate any feedback that will come in.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. I'll be dropping your links down below. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
super, super interesting to have you on this pod, Mabel. Thanks so much, Mabel. Thanks for your time. All right.
Thanks for
Take
having
care.
me. Thank you.
All right. Take care.